Welcome to Straight Outta Savannah, where the magic happens. I am super excited. My guest, Christine Mura, is here, and I am grateful that she has accepted my invitation to come on and speak about what she does and who she is. Christine, take it away.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I appreciate it. What do I do? I'm a healer. I am a conduit, a facilitator for you to unfold your wholeness. I don't believe that you're broken. I believe that you are born whole and complete. And through socialization and growing up, we give up our agency, our sovereignty, so that we can fit in to the culture. And when we get to about midlife, we played the game, we've done all the external validation, and there's something left unsatisfied inside of us. And what that really is, that it's your soul calling. It's asking you to be connected to it and to find a home deeper inside of yourself. And so my whole conversation, my whole healing is about bringing all the different tools that we have available and putting them in a system and a process called soul attunement that leads you back to your first breath and to your original 8 cells so that they can vibrate strongly and that you can live freely. At the moment that you get connected to what your purpose is on the planet, why you came back, why you reincarnated in this physical form, you get a sense of relief and peace because you're no longer struggling. You just fall into the resonance of how you were designed, and then you get to create the life that you want.
That is powerful. That is really powerful. You describe yourself as a practical mystic and the bridge between
Yes.
the invisible and the physical. So,
Yeah.
how does that role shift or deepen for women entering midlife reinvention?
For me, there was this aha moment because people would always say, "Are you more this? Are you more that?" And I just said, "I live both feet in both planes at the same time." I've never rejected my ability to hear and to see things or to listen or my intuition guiding me. And yet I'm not mystical that I can't apply it to my life. So I'm a Capricorn. I'm a projector. I'm a Pitta Kapha. Those things are very earthbound. And I've always just had that ability to bridge the chasm. And depending on who I'm talking to, can translate information to them that is helpful for their own growth and
Yeah,
their healing. So,
that
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know I was saying that is so powerful.
Yeah, I for a long time, up until this last year of the fire horse, I was always perplexed because people would say you have to be this way or you need to be that way. And I remember at one point I had a friend and I was a marketer in the digital space for a long time. And then I was in a healing group in a community and they would always say you have to pick one or the other. And I just remember one day I said to Susan, I'm both of those things. It's not like I'm either or, I'm a blend of all of that. And that's when everything started to really come together, like accepting who we actually are. Like everybody's always wanting to reject themselves. There's a wound and you have to hurry up and heal it. It's not about hurrying up and healing it. It's about remembering who you are, remembering how you're designed. The wound is a wound that is giving you information about why you're imbalanced and what your frequency isn't emanating at the time. There's not something wrong with you. There's some information that's been given to you so you can dig a little deeper into understanding why you reincarnated this time, why you're back in this on this planet in this body and having this experience. It's
That
about coming home. And so part of my work is also to realize that we have amnesia as a soul. We get amnesia because the whole process of our learning is to remember how we came through in the beginning. So we have this whole life experience of amnesia of not maybe being connected or not accepting that or forgetting completely or compartmentalizing ourselves. And as we grow older and we get closer to our own mortality, we realize, oh, wait, there's something more. And it's been your soul the whole time trying to reconnect with you at this primordial level of your 8 original cells trying to connect with you to remind you are a spiritual being having a human experience.
Yes, yeah. What brought you on this path? Where were you at when you realized that this was the path?
6.
6 years old.
I was 6 years old, my dad died.
Oh, wow.
And he'd come back from Vietnam and he had liver cancer. And when he arrived, he didn't live very long after he got home. And I remember when I was 6 thinking, why do we come back? Like we go to school, we graduate from little school, and then we go to middle school, and then we graduate, we go to college. I remember thinking this when I'm 6. Like, why do we do that? What's the point? Because you're just gonna die. You're just gonna die, so what's the point? Why are we here? Why do you know? And I would ask these questions of myself, and then as I grew up in my mom's house, there we had an old tree outside of my window, and so the sun would come through the trees in the morning, and I would have my drapes open, and then the sun would come through the tree leaves, and I would be on my bed, and I'd be looking at nature and sunshine, and so it was just an alchemical process of my growing. And then I started hearing or people would always come to me to counsel when I was in high school, and they would tell me their problems, and I would always have an answer, but I didn't really know why. And then my cousin who was older would always ask me questions about her boyfriends. And then I think when I was 17 or 19, there were a couple of friends who lost their parents.
Wow.
This one gentleman, Jim, he was my classmate. He was so sad that his mom died. And I guess I said something to him because he came up to me at a reunion and said, when you talked to me about my mom, that created it just made me feel different about her dying. I wasn't so sad anymore. So I don't know, even back then. But I wasn't cognizantly aware of my gifts probably until I was after my husband died when I was 42. But I'd always been studying just as a hobby. Like I would read spiritual texts. I would read stories about spiritual people. My son now, he would tell me, it's really embarrassing, Mom. You have Buddhas everywhere. Do you realize how many Buddhas you have? And so one day I counted, I had 53 Buddhas in my space in all different ways. They're not like a religious, I have them tucked away here and there. And he's like, it's embarrassing. You have that many. And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. I didn't actually realize that. And then when I actually counted all the sacred objects I have, that's my hobby is collecting sacred objects and having them displayed. And my hobby is to read about spiritual enlightenment and evolving. I've just never realized it until now that I've collected the many decades I've lived. That's been my interest.
That is quite interesting because people attribute meaning to things that it's not always the meaning. And I
Right.
believe that growing up, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Growing up in a Pentecostal religious household with so many rules and so many limits on the things that you did. And even sometimes even the books you brought in the house, all of these kind of things. And so as I grew, I decided that I love God, but I'm not doing nobody's religion.
Religion and spirituality are very different.
Two different things.
So
And they try to, what's that word? They try to manipulate you and brainwash you in those spaces.
they do because they're trying to control the masses.
Yes. And listening to how you grew up and were able to was there someone that you could talk to about these experiences that you had as a child?
It's funny. I had a very tumultuous Chinese mommy relationship. I don't know if you've ever seen any stories about how Chinese mothers treat their daughters.
The Joy Luck Club.
Yeah, that is a good example, and it's worse.
Oh, God.
I always had this sort of friction-filled relationship with my mom. But the one thing that she said to me when I was growing was I'd ask her, "Why don't we go to church?" Or my friends went to catechism or whatever.
Right.
And she would say, "Christine, when you're ready to know God, you're gonna choose your path. I'm not gonna take you to places where God lives because that's up to you." That was the one gift that woman gave me was to let me have my own search and my own experience with God, and that I wasn't indoctrinated with all this other stuff that a lot of friends.
The decondition.
So I think in that perspective, she was probably more Buddhist, but she didn't actually even realize she was. And losing my dad at such a young age, in my mom's family, there were 9 kids, and they were all married, and my mom was the only one who had lost a spouse. So for me, I was just always different. I was literally the black sheep of my mother's family. People would say to me, "You're disrespectful, you don't care about your mom," but even when we would have these tumultuous encounters with each other, I would stand up for myself. And I remember talking to a really good friend of mine, and she said, "Yeah, having a dad in the house, you can't do that. You can't speak to your mom like that. If I spoke to my mom the way that you do, I would be put in my room and punished, and my dad would get on my case." I just think my life was designed, like God designed me to be who I am and how I show up and have the experiences I have because they're authentically given. They come from life experience and not so much being indoctrinated or told I needed to do or act a certain way. And that's really helped people in my healing. We have that conversation, especially people who are Catholic. You can't violate any of their rules and regulations. And there is guilt
Yeah.
and looking at a spiritual path. For whatever time that comes up, that's when Source just speaks through me. I always say use me as a channel of healing for whoever you need to speak to and in whatever way. And I've been saying that since I was 17. So there are times when people show up in my life and those conversations happen and there's a little bit of freedom for them because they're downtrodden with living by these rules of shame and blame and enlightenment. If there is enlightenment in Catholicism, I'm not sure.
I don't know a lot about it either. I've been to a Catholic church maybe twice, maybe 3 now. Yeah, 3 times because I went to a funeral of one of the patients of the place that I worked and was Catholic, but that was it. And I was very small, so I don't even remember. And sometimes I look at different religions just to see what is it that they actually believe. Okay, so that, yeah.
When you are in any kind of religious organization, you are indoctrinated to hold that organization up, to finance it, to live within the rules and regulations, and not to question. There's an idea of what God might be for you, but only if you adhere to their restrictions or whatever it is. But a
And
true relationship with God is magic, and there's an ease and a flow to your life that is just undescribable, right? Like coincidence, synchronicity, however you want to term it, there's a lightness and a love permeates your life. It's really quite amazing.
when I hear you talk, it sounds exactly like the journey that I took because I had been to ministry school and I worked in my church on the prayer lines on the phone, praying for people and all this stuff. But then there was a day that came when I said, okay, what is all this about? And the other thing is, I've always talked to God and I had lots of experiences as a child with seeing dead people and things like that. And I was like, I know that's not wrong. I know that these are connections that I have with
Right.
God, the source,
Right.
the creator.
Right.
And so it took me on this journey to discover.
The bandwidth of life is not life. The bandwidth of your spirit is infinite, and it
Yes.
has many different chapters and permutations of what that spirit goes through and lives through and learns and expands and grows. So after death, everybody thinks, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
What is it is the container, your human container, right? People don't believe in spirit. They think that, oh, that's just for people who are woo. But I always give them the premise like, you're breathing, aren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
And you
okay.
don't think about it.
But you're breathing. So if you're breathing, can you understand that when your breath goes, that you go? What do you have? You have a dead corpse. Your breath is your soul and your spirit. It is the side of the invisible that you cannot see, but you participate in daily. Whether you acknowledge that union or not, that's up to you. But in physical form, you're all that. It's all of that. It's not
Yes.
this or that. You're not a robot. You're not a mechanistic organism that is walking around based on some computer system. Your computer system is your breath. That's why when people are in healing communities, they say, breathe deeply. It's because you're reconnecting with yourself.
Yes. Absolutely. That's one of those things that when you talk to people about it initially, if they're not in the space to receive it, then they look at us like we have two heads.
That's okay. The fact that they don't acknowledge that, they're really losing out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
because when you finally accept that you are a soul and a spiritual being, you get to enter in a doorway that allows you to be a fully integrated human. It's just not in a physical plane any longer. There's something that's greater than all of us, connects all of us, and allows us to move through life in a completely, I don't know, I say it's magical because it does feel that way to me. I just can't, like, explain how the going in and out of certain situations, or even when life kicks my ass, like when my husband died, there was still that connection to realizing that there's something greater than that physical form, or having that deep hurt, that pain. I remember waking up, it was like 6 weeks after he'd passed, and I fell to the floor because I was just so sad, and I was weeping, and snot coming out of my nose, and I was on the ground, and my heart was hurting, and I remember spirit leaning over me and saying, "Christine, do you believe that you're ever gonna feel love and joy again?" And I said, "Yes, but there's an ant on my chest and I can't breathe. Can you just tell me I gotta get up and take my kids to swimming?" And probably 3 or 4 minutes later, I got up and I went down the hall and got my kids ready. I've had many experiences where I hear things, like when he was dying, I was lamenting about, "Oh, I should be the one that leaves. He needs to be here for the boys." And I heard God say, "No, Christine, the boys need you because you are full of life and you will sustain them moving forward. And you are going to be Bruce's messenger from his passing. Like, you're going to tell the world like his story because his story is pretty amazing." And so I realized being the messenger, like, I'm the messenger on many different levels, just not his story, but for many people who are having those moments where they're challenged and they're destroyed. Their heart is broken. It's being able to stand in that level of emotion and be able to translate from the invisible to the physical plane to hold them.
Let me see. This is so full. I'm feeling goosebumps. So I know that the energy is high right now. And I'm just so grateful for you.
Thank you. Letting me share.
Yes. So many women in midlife feel like they've lost their spark.
Yep. And
But how do you help them reconnect with what you call their signature spark?
there's a lot of reasons why women lose their spark, and a lot of it has to do with overgiving.
Yes.
Taking care of everybody, being the one to orchestrate life, food, trips, adventures. Like, you're usually the catalyst that holds that all together for everyone, and you
Yeah.
aren't getting nourished. You put yourself last. You always make sure everybody else is taken care of, but you, whether, you're buying clothes or you're taking a massage or you're going on a trip or you're getting your hair done or whatever all that is, how you nurture yourself, or you're sitting in silence or you're on a retreat, there's a conversation about lack of deservedness. Like, everybody else's needs are more important than yours.
Yes.
And the truth of it is, that's a value proposition. And you put yourself at the bottom all the time and you keep getting all this stuff dumped on you because you're not standing up for you in your life and what's important and what you need. And you'd be surprised if you make those declarations, not in an angry way, just really coming from a space of, "Yeah, honey, just can't do that. I got something else scheduled." Or you're making your boundaries. "Oh, you want that? Here's some money. Go down to the grocery store and get that." Or You want to go on a trip? Okay, you research this and let me know, and then let's collaborate. Like, we just don't feel like we can ever delegate out in order to stop the burnout. We have to just take those little steps. And then inside of those steps, to really understand your value. What does that mean, your value? Your value is you stop putting yourself at the bottom and you start putting yourself higher on the list. And you say no to your kids and you say no to your husband. And if you can't do that, then there's a deeper conversation where we get to look at when you gave up yourself in your life,
Yes.
which is in childhood. We all do that though, because it's a socialization process. It's having the adult
And
awareness.
then we continue. That's what we do because
Right.
I did a whole series on people pleasing and
Oh, that was
within there,
powerful.
self sabotage, all those things. And God just opened it up and I just did it. It's on YouTube. And when I did it, it was like, wow. Because of course, when we're learning these things, most of the time we're going through them. And so it was the journey. And so I'm just giving it people pleasing, self sabotage, loving yourself, all these things. I talk about that so many times. And I have two friends that I can think of off the top of my head that died because of just what you're talking about.
Oh,
They gave and gave and gave. The kids just pulled and pulled and they gave and they were everything to everybody. And you're sitting here wondering when they dropping dead at 40, one was 44, one was 55,
tired.
going now, tired. And I saw it with the last one, it was right in COVID. And I saw it so clearly. And I tried to, sometimes when you see things like that, you try to push them away
Yeah.
because you don't want to see that, even though you know that it's true.
It's a reflection for
Yeah.
your own work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried so hard, but then I realized that she was just tired and she was ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh, like, because I'm thinking she's 55. She only has seen 3 of her grandkids, and now she has 5 because 2 of them came after she died. But I think that in that particular situation, you're so tired, you're not thinking about anything else. And for the first time, you're thinking about you.
The other part of that too is on a soul contract level. That might have been what she came back to learn. Like that might, after she had lived that much time and saw her kids where they were, that might be her spirit saying, okay, you got it this time. We've got this snapshot next, and whatever that next adventure might be.
And that's
Um,
absolutely true. That could
yeah.
absolutely be true.
So I think that, and it's funny because being who I am, I'm a Capricorn, so I have boundaries and rules. And I had 2 boys that I raised by myself after my husband passed. I was in a relationship and I didn't get married or anything. And the one thing my boys really have is, as a strong woman in their life, like they respect women in a whole different way,
Yeah.
and there's a level of reverence.
Yeah.
And my older one has said to me, I tell her, Mom, that if she wants me to guess about what's going on, that's just gonna be a deal breaker because I'm not that guy. And I just laughed because it was like, good for you. Good for you, Sammy. That's to be clear about where you are in a relationship and being very young.
Yeah.
And my husband and I had an amazing relationship, and he was a high level spiritual being himself. We got to model what spiritual marriage looks like
Oh, that's amazing.
in a really healthy way. And so seeing him have embodied that and now has that in his relationship, it all starts there. It starts in the early part of your relationship, how you each honor each other and what you speak. And if that's one thing I can give to people is always speaking your truth. Not speaking your truth to hurt someone, but speaking what's real and what fills you, what
Yes.
guides you, what gives you your juice in life. You
Yeah.
have to be able to speak that, because when you don't and you swallow it and you swallow it, that's where the word dis-ease comes from, because you're editing yourself all the time. As a spiritual being, you're not meant to edit yourself. You're here to show up and to stand your ground and to be honest and to love fully and to listen and to participate. And so many times people don't do a lot of that, and then they wonder how I got ill, how did I get old? Why does this leg hurt? My back hurts. All of those are signs of your leg or your back or you have sciatica.
Yes.
Okay, that's why as we get older, we have all these issues. It's because we weren't honest with ourselves and we weren't honest with the people that we live with or in relationship to. And so we find ourselves suffering these things in middle age.
Yes. Absolutely. This has been amazing, I have to say. We're going to land this plane right now. And so, for the last question that I ask all of my guests, if there was anything in the world that you could change, what would that be and why?
Say that again to me.
I said, if there was anything that you could change in the world, what would that be and why?
Here I am. If I could change one thing, I would end the chaos of our political environment. I would remind everybody that has been elected that they're supposed to be representing
The
us,
people.
the people, us in America, and not themselves.
Yeah.
And I would ask that the Republican Party and MAGA stop being so obstinate in trying to destroy our democracy.
I agree with all of that. Usually people say the opinions of are not the same as mine, but I can agree with that completely and totally.
I think if you're any spiritual healer, you know that we all want the greatest good for as many people as
In
possible.
peace.
And it's not bent on destroying, belittling, shaming, imprisoning people that look differently than you. Like they just don't get that if you're not a white male, the rest of us still do exist.
Yeah, because really the rest of us are what? DEI. I'm done with that.
I think it's hilarious that women of all colors, but especially white women, support this man and they are discriminated against. That was the whole thing about abolishing Roe versus Wade. The fact that you want to imprison us because of our ability for reproduction, what does that actually say? It says to me that they're actually pretty scared because if we really understood the power of our femininity, like without us, there is no more recreation of humans moving forward. Without us, they're nothing.
Their whole agenda was not for me and you. Their whole agenda was white women having babies because they are so scared that they're in the minority, which they are in the world, and they're so afraid of that. And so they want to force white women to have babies. And that was their agenda with the Roe v. Wade thing. It wasn't you and I, because they don't care about our babies. They want white babies. But the problem is that is going so far against what is happening. Because I don't know where you live and what, but what I see is so many people together.
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah. So you see all of the different people mixing. And I think it's beautiful.
And
Look at the babies they're
that just,
bringing.
but just the fear-based perspective about having white children and the white race matters. And the fact that they tried to hold on to it as hard as they are, just by the sheer place of living in life. Like they're so scared about what's going to happen, but it's already happened.
It's
And
already happened.
that's the whole thing about billionaires. Billionaires not paying their fair share, billionaires that are white men, but they can't change the force of nature.
Exactly.
It's just like, why don't you embrace what's happening?
Yes.
And
Because you're too
strap.
scared, you're going to lose control. That is what it is. It's all about control and money.
Is once he's done, they lost control again anyway. Because the next person that's going to get elected in to the office of being the president of the United States, it's going to be the opposite position of what the current government is. And there's no way that he can manipulate it. He's going to try and cheat again, but
They won't have that issue. And we're just going to say that.
thank you.
Point. Boo. Land this plane. Is there any last words that you would like to say to the ladies? Because I didn't start off in this space, but this is where I've gotten to. And it's been such an incredible journey to get here with this show. Because I started off just interviewing anybody that could talk and that had a business. It was for people that are changing the planet. That was my tagline. And so I would interview anybody. And it was great. I had a good time. And then it was time to switch. So then I started interviewing spiritual entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
which I continue to do. But now the conversations are around spiritual authority and midlife reinvention, which is also amazing. And it was so organic for me, so I'm super excited just to have this conversation with you because I've seen your stuff. You've been around a little bit. And I was like, oh, she's amazing. I looked at your picture and I was like, oh, she sent a picture. So I'm just amazed. Girl, you don't know. Some people send their logos for pictures. I'm like, I need your face.
Being a marketer for 30 years, I do know what the foundational basics are, but being a practical mystic, that's a conversation that is dear to my heart. It's how I want
Yeah.
to serve on the planet. If people want to connect with me, they can find me on Facebook. My name, Christine Mira, or you can send me at Gmail, Christine Mira at Gmail, and just write me and chat if you want to do some work or you want to have an experience of self-discovery. What I did in my soul attunement process, I use different modalities. So I use Ayurveda. I talk about your nervous system. I do sound healing with tonics. I have bowls. We do somatic breath work. Yeah, and then when you want to know what your soul's mission, why you came back, I have a signature spark program that reunites your first breath and your 8 original selves together to tell you why you came.
That's powerful. Wise. Make sure that you follow Christine. I will also have the details in the show notes, how you can connect with her and all that kind of stuff. So make sure that you're following her because she is amazing. I love her signature spark program. I'm like, how can we push that out? But I'm super excited that she came to share with us. So make sure that you follow her and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe wherever you are listening or watching. This show will be on YouTube, on Substack, on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to this one. So we appreciate you joining us here on Straight Outta Savannah, where the magic happens. And my guest, Christine Mira. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.